Do I have a motion to convene the January 11th, 2023 regular meeting of the Levittown Board of Education? Mary Ann, do I have a second? Dylan, all in favor? 6-0. Please note, Mike Pappas is excused from this meeting. May I have a motion to move into executive session for the purpose of seeking legal advice from the board's attorney? Christina, do I have a second? James, all in favor? 6-0. We will return at 7:30 and we'll recite their Pledge of Allegiance when we return to open the regular meeting. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the January 11th regular meeting of the Levittown Board of Education. May I please have a motion to reconvene the meeting? Mary Ann, do I have a second? Christina, all in favor? 6-0. Please note Mike Pappas is excused from tonight's meeting. Tonight, we are honored to have students from Wisdom Lane Middle School lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance, please rise.
Hello. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we please have a moment of silence to remember all those fighting for our country at home and overseas? Thank you. We are now up to our student presentations portion of our meeting. I will turn the meeting over to Mr. Winch.
Thank you, Ms. Messina. So tonight we are thrilled to have with us, once again, students and faculty from Wisdom Lane Middle School to give their presentation. So I am going to start off by first asking Mr. John Avena to introduce everybody that has come with him from Wisdom Lane. While he does that, I'm going to ask for the board members to please take their seats in the reserved seating.
Check, 1, 2. I just always wanted to do that, sorry. If you don't know me, my name is John Avena. I'm the principal here at Wisdom Lane Middle School. Tonight, our students from Wisdom Lane and staff are going to present our newly formed Writing Academy. The Writing Academy was developed by our English director, Ms. Karen Slattery, with the help of 2 of our staff members at Wisdom Lane Middle School, Ms. Caitlin Stabile, our school librarian, and Ms. Kristen Schmidt, one of our English teachers and dean of students. So I'm going to ask Christian and Caitlin to come up at this time to introduce the students.
Thank you all for coming. As Mr. Avena said, we just wanted to we're grateful for the opportunity for our students to present their work. All of what they're going to read tonight is their original pieces. We have 3 of our students presenting. Just to give you a background on how the Writing Academy works, Mrs. Stabile runs the Academy on Tuesday and Thursday mornings, and I run it on Wednesday afternoons. Sometimes the students are able to come to all 3 sessions, sometimes they come to one or the other. It's nice that it's fluid. The opportunity is there for them to have a space to be creative, to grow as individuals and as writers. They really have shown a lot of progress even from the beginning of the year where they were sitting at individual tables and just before break they were exchanging phone numbers. So this is a great opportunity for them. And it also showcases them that it's okay to be vulnerable and put themselves out there as we all do with writing. So we have a few who are going to read their pieces. So we're going to call them up individually to come read. So Myra Roeder, if you would start. Thank you. Myra is one of our 6th graders here. Would you prefer the stand? So some of of these pieces that they're working on are works in progress. These are just small excerpts actually, I think our one poem is unable to attend tonight, our poetry reader. So these are just small excerpts.
What lies within the forest? What lies within the forest? A girl and her family lived right by a forest, where the closest neighbor was miles away. Although the girl was forbidden to enter past the trees, she loved wandering around the field right before the forest began. Her parents always told her myths about how people never returned once they went into the darkness. So naturally, the girl was curious of what lies within. For years, the girls listened to her parents and never went beyond the field. But as the girl grew up, she no longer believed the myths her parents told her when she was younger. The girl still loved to wander and play in the field, so one night she decided to go into the forest when her parents were asleep. She quietly climbed out of her window. She went into the forest, and what she found was something that she never thought she would see. She saw her parents, but they looked different. They had blood on their shirts, and their nice clothing had tears in them. Her parents never went into the forest. Her parents slowly walked over to the girl, and she was never found again.
Okay, next we are inviting up Elizabeth Lipinski. She will be reading her short piece called Across the Street.
The lights turn off all of a sudden in the house across the street. I see someone walk into the open with sunglasses on and a big bag. He looks around and waits for someone or something to come. He sits on the porch and looks around again. Then he pulls out a phone and starts tapping it. I look down at the big bag and see something dripping out of it. I squint my eyes to see it better. I see it. Red, dripping blood. My eyes widen as my heart starts beating fast. I decide to talk to him. I know it's a dumb idea to talk to a maybe murderer, but I might be wrong. I get up from my chair and walk over. While I walk across the street, I think of what I'm going to see. I almost reach him, but then a car comes speeding down the road and stops in front of his house. I see someone get out and try to talk to him. I try to hear, but they talk really low, so all I could get out was hurry, don't, blood, no, and get in. After they get in, they walk back to the car and put the bag in the trunk. They get in the car and drive off fast. When they drove away, I looked around and saw red drops of something on the ground. No, not something, blood. Yes, it can only be blood on the ground in front of the house across the street.
I promise when we have our clubs, we have the windows open, it's not dark, there's lots of light coming in, sometimes we even play joyous music. So our third and final piece was written by Fiona Adams. She's going to stand next to me while I read it for her, and Aria Castelli is going to come up as well, because we kind of did a collaboration with this piece where Aria became her illustrator. So she does graphic design work, and together they created their ideas, and Aria put the words into a visual. Fiona and Aria. So this is Aria, this is their visual together. This one is titled The Monster in the Mirror. Another one, my mom says, shaking her head while reading the newspaper. This means another person from our town vanished. Aliens recently came down to Earth, and they've been taking humans and turning them into aliens. No one knows how they're doing it yet, but I'm pretty sure my friend is next. She's been hearing whispers such as, "Come with me and don't be afraid." Tonight, I'm sleeping over her house, hoping that it won't be our last night together. It's only 10 p.m., but I'm already sleepy. I don't want to lose sight of my friend, so I'll just close my eyes for a sec. Ah, I'm jolted out of my sleep. Immediately, I'm expecting the worst. I hope my friend hasn't been taken or turned into an alien. She's standing and facing her mirror, her back to me. It's okay. It's going to be okay, I say to her, trying not to sound afraid. She slowly turns her body and faces me. My blood turns cold. Half of her face is alien. I stand up, not knowing what to do. A tense silence falls between us. She glances back at the mirror, and then she turns back to me. Ugh, she exhales. How am I supposed to put blush on this? My mouth falls open in confusion. All I could respond is, what? So thank you so much for allowing us the opportunity, allowing them the opportunity. They really work very hard, and we're so grateful that we have this for them. I think we want to take a photo, so if you can all come up, all members of the club. Some of our club members are here as well, but they just didn't want to read, so we're all supporting one another.
I just wanted to take a quick moment to thank all the children from Wisdom Lane who came and were brave enough to share their stories with us. Thank you again for that. Beautiful. And Division Avenue High School, please note the beautiful art pieces, on the walls that our wonderfully talented students at Division Avenue High School gave to us so we can take a look around. Some really talented students, and thanks to their teachers as well for this fantastic display. I'm now going to turn it over to Mr. Winch for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Ms. Messina. At this time, I'm going to turn it on over to Mr. Michael Fabiano, who has several presentations tonight. I just want to set the stage a little bit. Our first presentation is very, very brief by Johnson Controls, just about an update to the energy performance contract that was presented to the board back in June or July. If you remember at that time, one of the board members had asked about the possibility of adding some additional solar to that project, of which the folks from Johnson Controls had said that PSE&G was not able to do any more solar at that time. Well, they've worked very hard behind the scenes to try to make that come to fruition, and it looks like they're going to be able to go back to the original amount of solar, which Mr. Fabiano will mention. And then we will begin the process of our budget cycle for the 23-24 school year, of which Mr. Fabiano will present the first draft of the budget. We'll hear from the Facilities and Operations Department. Mr. Camarada is here with us. And then Mr. Fabiano, again, will present a little bit on potential capital projects over the next so many years. So Without stealing too much of your thunder, Mr. Fabiano, I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Superintendent Lynch. Yes, I'd like to first start by saying that our Johnson Control rep, Danny Haffel, could not be with us tonight. He was called out of town. And as the superintendent correctly mentioned, we approved this contract back in August, and one of our trustees had asked why the scope of the project had been reduced. And again, as the superintendent correctly stated, PSE&G, in order to allow for the extra solar, would have charged us a fee that would not have made sense for us economically to do. So we went back as requested and worked with PSE&G, and through some rearranging and some negotiations, we were able to get in these additional solar measures. So if we could just, it's a very brief presentation, we can just kind of look at what that order of magnitude will be, and it's up to me to change it. Okay, very good. And we'll do one at a time. And I went all the way.
That was fast, you're right. Good job.
Wow. You know, I wanted to, okay.
He did not, clearly did not.
So we are going to now be able to do, we are now be able to do both solar at Memorial as well as MacArthur. Some of the rooftop projects have been moved to carports, so ground level stations. And the additional measures will generate $180,000 more in electric savings per year. So over the life of the project, which is amortized over 15 years, we'll save an additional $2.2 million with these extra measures. And this is just kind of a look at the numbers from the top down. You can see that the cost of the project went from $12.2 million to $15.1. So obviously the payments go up, but the energy savings and the building aid that we receive more than offset that. So the total net cash savings to the district of approximately 6.4 moved up to almost $8.6 million. I also mentioned tonight there's a motion on the agenda to approve this increased scope so that we can begin the design with these additional measures in. I spoke to our district architect to see how he felt about these additional measures, and he is completely on board with the proposed changes. So the last slide I thought was interesting, you know, as we all look to conserve and save the savings that we will generate with the solar power is equivalent to, and he has about six different measures, so approximately 366 gallons of gasoline would be saved, or 7,500 barrels of oil. So it just really is a win-win all the way around. So are there any questions? Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fabiano. Well, that, just so that everybody knows that these things obviously go up to the state. This is still months and months and months you will not see anything for. So, but it's wonderful work for us to be able to be doing and upgrade the facilities and at the same time save money. So that's, like Mr. Fabiano said, it's a win-win. All right, Mr. Fabiano, we begin the process tonight of developing the budget for next school year. So we're all very, very excited by this. So I guess why don't you lead us through the process that we're going to be following this year, as well as the first draft.
Okay, so I don't want to give away the bottom line, but this story is it's about as scary as the stories we just heard out here. But it's not the ending. So
there's no blood. No blood in this, right? Not yet.
I want everyone to know that this is truly a starting point. We've incorporated in the development of our budget all the required mandates and contractual obligations. So we we set out to meet the Board of Education's goals, and that's to build the budget collaboratively with the Board of Ed, with the administration, and with our building leadership. Within that work, we also have to strive to maintain fiscal integrity. We're always looking to operate efficiently, so we're constantly looking at the way we're doing things, who we're contracting with, always looking to keep the cost to the taxpayers down. Obviously, for the past decade, the additional challenge is staying within the tax levy limit, which we will be doing so again this year. And finally, we bring it all together to fulfill our model, success for every student. This is, I'm not going to go through every date on here, but this is our budget planning calendar. It began back in November when the packets went out. We began meeting with department heads and different stakeholders in December to put together the initial draft, which is where we are tonight, January 11th. And this is a process that will continue over the next couple of months. The next big piece of the puzzle will come when the governor releases the numbers from the state budget. She gave her state address the other day, but we've yet to see what the state aid numbers are for the individual school districts. Overall, I think there was a 7.7% increase in foundation aid, so it appears she's honoring the commitment to fully fund the foundation aid formula, which is a good thing. Tax levy limit calculations were done by the end of February. Suffice it to say that the consumer price index was above 2%, so we will get that factor built into the equation. We continue the process with our other assistant superintendents leading up the way for staffing and enrollment, as well as curriculum over the course of the next few months. The additional presentation we're going to have tonight is dealing exclusively with the 5-year capital facilities plan. We're going to have that adopted when we adopt the budget. So that is going to become part of the process. And I'm going to speak to that a little bit after this presentation and take you through that.
Mr. Fabiano, can you just move your mic up a little bit?
Yeah,
just want to test whether or not you're breaking up because of where it is or if the battery's dying.
Should I could hold it? Is that any better?
Try to move this.
Oh,
No, it's all right.
okay.
Yeah, why don't you hold it and see how that is?
Yeah. Okay.
This is why we're trying.
So mechanically, we have a lot to do in April to file reports with the state, the budget statement. On May 3rd, we'll be holding our annual budget hearing. Budget notices will then go out, and this year the budget vote is on May 16th, and the polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. So this was the scary part of the story. Our first draft budget to budget increase is at 6.92%. I promise you it will not stay there. Staying within the tax cap would not support that number. So we have our work cut out for us. And we'll be doing that probably every day for the next 3 months, looking at that. Again, we seek to fulfill the Board of Education's goals with this budget, and we look for ways to reduce expenses without impacting programs. What we still need, I think I got ahead of myself a little bit. We still need to file the tax levy tax cap calculation. We need our state aid projections. We have not gotten cost increases from BOCES, but we estimated 4 to 5% depending on the program. So hopefully that was, the estimate was a little high, a little conservative on our part, and so that will help. We'll be looking at, Ms. Rifkin's office will be looking at estimated enrollments and doing staffing projections based on those enrollments. What's included? We included all current programs, so everything that we're currently doing, we will continue to do. And we have a long list of other programs that we're seeking to get in, but that are essentially competing against one another for the necessary resources. We've had to obviously include any mandated increases. Mandated increases would be things like retirement system contributions and health insurance premiums. Fortunately and surprisingly, the retirement system contribution numbers did not go up as dramatically as one might have expected with the market downturn this past fiscal year. But health insurance premiums are going up, and we have those actual numbers now, and they're going up by double digits, close to 14%. That's a dramatic number because the health insurance premium line is the single largest item in our budget, in excess of $30 million. When you apply a 14% increase to that, you're in excess of $4 million increase right off the bat. So we have that to contend with, and there's really not a lot you can do about that. Capital money, again, that'll be tied to the tax levy limit, and we are proposing, or in the first draft, have a number of new initiatives that we'll be speaking to further on. But at this point, we're not going to speak to any of them because we just really don't know what will make the cut. Don't want to get anybody excited unnecessarily. So again, our budget last year, just under $340 million. At this particular moment, the increases amount to $16 million, or 6.92%, which we will work to bring down. Any questions regarding the budget?
And I don't expect that you'll really answer it now. It's just sort of throughout the process with gas and oil, electric and inflation, right? We have to absorb those prices just like, everybody else in the home. So if we could just talk about the impact that has on our programs and our staff down the line, just something, basically a future question. I mean, did anybody buy a dozen eggs? It's insane. It's insane. I'm going to have to go. So, so just that's my question throughout, I guess, the whole process. Like, if it could be specifically pointed out where the inflation is impacting our budget, and then how that results in the influence of that on the other aspects, because it's got to come from somewhere.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. So, I could speak a little bit to it tonight, and we can get into it further as we go through the process. Our Director of Facilities, Mr. Camerati, is here tonight, and he's going to be sharing with us his initial budget. But the utility lines in the budget are up tremendously. We're right now in the preliminary first draft. We budgeted a 20% increase. We're going to be looking at that more closely to see if it could be brought down a little bit. But right now, that's the recommendation of the organizations that we work with, making recommendations for that. I think that the health insurance premiums, the increase there were a function of the pandemic. And so, we're seeing that with a 14% increase in the night shift premiums. And there are increases scattered across the board. We're going to be doing a presentation on capital projects. The cost of goods and services has increased dramatically from what it was a couple of years ago. It won't necessarily affect the operating budget, but it will affect how much work we can do with existing capital project money. So we'll go into further detail, but hopefully that gives you some idea that, yes, we are addressing it, and it's part of what's making up that 6.9% increase that we have to grapple with. And clearly, if you're having to allocate more resources towards that, because we do have to keep the lights on, it's less resources that you have for other expenses.
And just if I could just make a comment, like this is the first draft of the budget, right? So like this is what ends up happening in late November and then in December is that Mr. Fabiano meets with stakeholders across the district in regards to building the budget, right? So right now there's a lot of areas in the budget that still have to be fine-tuned. Like as an example, like there are items in here, let's say building level supply codes and things like that, that like we still have to go through to like make sure that there's the appropriate per pupil allocation for each of the buildings. Those things have not been done. They'll be done between now and let's say the curriculum instruction presentation, which includes that information. So there's a natural decrease that will occur as it occurs every year. It's the same process we've followed since I've been back at least. So, like I said, as much as it seems very high right now, it's higher than I guess it would traditionally be at the beginning because of those inflationary pressures. And so there may end up being more cuts than we would necessarily do to make up for them. But those are going to happen in the next iterations of the budget between now and March. And it's just like last year where I think we had given you that spreadsheet of like 10% increases or more to codes. Like we'll do that again, just like we did last year. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and one of the comments I wanted to mention is that we will provide the budget to you in Excel. I know there's not an Excel file in this, but you will get that. That will have the grid lines. This is a printout from Envision, so it doesn't. I don't believe does Envision have the grid lines when you print this or no? I don't think it does. I've never.
No, I can add them. Though.
You can, okay.
It's a formatting. So
Okay.
when you say the budget in Excel, like the actual Excel file, or just grid lines on Excel.
Well, we'll do both because we'll do the Excel file anyway, but on these reports.
Yeah.
Just to make it easier to follow across.
Yeah, I could reformat.
No. No, not yet. Right. This is just the first draft. But what you should do though is make note of this to make sure that those are answered as we go through the process.
Okay. All right, so second part of our presentation for tonight is our facilities and operations budget.
Tonight, ask those questions. So like, let's say you asked
Here
about the
tonight
electric.
to present on that and his preliminary budget.
Yeah, that's not.
So when,
Because
it's
we
the
have
one
it-
before that,
we generally
it's facilities and
codes that are
operations.
related to the presentation that's coming
That's
up.
the
So like
cap.
when curriculum comes, which is in March, before then, we'll have gone through those codes to say, allocation has to be applied because they did everything that they want. Then that's not realistic. You know what I'm saying?
I am gonna be giving that next.
Like another example, like in supplies, there's contractual, like MacArthur's code, there's like 3 times division, things like that. That's just what they asked for.
I did.
You should, we'll have copies in on your, walk through.
No, he's bringing it up.
I have a flash.
Because then nobody at home can see it. So we'll wait.
Oh,
I have a flash drive with me too that has it on it. That's helpful. You want it?
yeah.
Look at Craig. Mr. Camerata.
Belton.
All right, I think we're good. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to let me come here tonight and propose the our 2023-24 facilities and operations budget of a short presentation I'll take you through, and at the end, I'd be happy to answer any questions. So obviously, I'll start off with our department goals. I have 4 bullet points here. Obviously, our main priority is to provide a clean, safe, and comfortable educational environment that is conducive to teaching and learning. Secondly, provide a high level of service and efficiency in the maintenance and repair of our transportation and motor vehicle fleet. Implement innovative ways of improving efficiency through the purchase and use of new equipment, employee training, and technology. And lastly, maintain operating costs through the use of new technologies, preventative maintenance, and conservation. Here's a little information about our district. It comprises of 14 school facilities, 29 non-instructional structures, 192 acres, 633 classrooms, well over 1 million square feet of buildings, and daily attendance of staff, students, and visitors approaching over 10,000. Oops. Back. Just have some pictures for you. The next few slides, I'll present some pictures of some projects that we've recently completed. On the left here, you'll see that's the MacArthur gym. We resurfaced the entire gymnasium floor. It was completely sanded down. All the game lines were removed, and they were reinstalled and re-urethaned over them. We seek input from the athletic staff and coaching staff as to what game lines need to go where. Very important to get them all in before the urethane goes down. Very difficult to add game lines later on once the urethane goes down. Don't ask me how I know that. It may have happened to me in the past. In another, yeah, not here. And we're earmarking division to get the same type of treatment. On the right side, you'll see, again, over at MacArthur, that's the tennis courts. They've been completely resurfaced. Oops. Sorry. In these photos, you'll see this is a classroom where we did a full abatement on the floor, removed all the asbestos floor tile, and installed a new LVT vinyl floor tile. One of the great advantages of this type of system is that these floors don't need to be stripped and waxed. Usually during summer cleaning, custodial staff will remove all the furniture from the room. They apply a floor stripping chemical that removes all the wax. It's a laborious process, and it can be a little bit dangerous as well. It gets very slippery doing this. One of the most hazardous jobs of custodial staff is usually stripping and waxing floors. Using this type of product, you don't have to worry about this anymore. And going forward, as we replace floors, this is the type of product that we'll continue to use. As we move forward with a set of windows in a classroom. And this is typically what you're going to see if you walk into a classroom that we've installed air conditioning in. Our own maintenance staff is doing all this work, including installing them and also running the electric lines for them. If you can see where the unit is plugged in on the right-hand side, that conduit runs up into the ceiling, and it's a direct line from there to the nearest circuit breaker panel. They all require a dedicated line. On the right-hand side, you'll see some what they're called ductless split air conditioning units. We use these when we don't have a window available to install these wall units to the outside. So we'll install a unit on the inside, run refrigerant piping throughout the building to an outdoor unit where we can either put that in a courtyard or up on the roof.
I'm just going to... We had talked about focusing on installing air conditioning into all of our instructional spaces. And like Mr. Camerata mentioned, that currently is being done really by our maintenance staff whenever they can. They've installed quite a few air conditioners really since the beginning of the school year. And I just want to say that they've done a phenomenal job at doing this. We've tried to say that we're looking to get as many done as we can during the school year. I've mentioned before that for Gardeners and Summit, it's going to be a little bit longer because there are other infrastructure requirements that need to take place. But I just wanted to a big shout out to the folks in our facilities department for really working together to get these things done. I do see, some of our most important colleagues from the facilities department here. I just wanted to thank them for their efforts in this particular project because I know it's a lot of work. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. This is a picture on the left-hand side. That's a new walk-in freezer that we've installed over at Salk Middle School. There was some old equipment in this area that wasn't really used anymore, so we removed all that. Again, our maintenance staff removed it all, and then we had a contractor design the box and install it. And on the right-hand side, you'll see that's a new wall that our maintenance staff built and painted, and that's going to be for the esports class over at Wisdom Lane Middle School, where that wall will be populated with several flat-screen TVs and Xbox game systems, and the kids can get in there and have a lot of fun with that program. I'm looking to get over there myself, by the way.
It looks great. I was able to see it on parent-teacher conference night.
Yeah.
I got to peek in.
Yes.
It looks really good. They did a great job.
Absolutely.
This is a pilot club that we're going to try for this year. It hasn't started yet, but the idea will be to see if there's student interest, and then if there is, expand further to other schools in the district.
Some fencing projects that we did. This is a couple of different areas. A division on the left. I believe that's East Broadway on the right. And there's one of the fences on the upper right. That's one of the fences that is borders one of our community members' homes that we replaced. One of our other big initiatives is we're going to move forward with beginning to replace existing water fountains. We'll replace them with bottle filling stations. You can see the one there on the left that was just recently installed at Salk Middle School. That's going to be a big advantage for the kids and staff when they want to get some cups of water. Right now we have bottled water throughout the building, with cups that is available for everybody. So this will make it a lot easier. And on the right, that's a new fuel management system that we installed over at our bus depot and by our automotive department. This is going to keep a much better track of our gas usage. Each driver is assigned a card, and we'll be able to tap in and tap out, and it'll keep all the records, keep very accurate records for the amount of fuel that we're using. All right, so our planned initiatives, we're going to continue installation of air conditioning for our instructional spaces. Continue replacement of existing water fountains with new filtered bottle filling units, as I just mentioned. Implement additional security equipment and personnel. Complete the replacement of the fuel dispensing system at Transportation Depot that I just spoke about. We're about halfway done with that project. Unfortunately, we can't take the entire system offline because, obviously we use it every day. So we'll finish that up over the summer. Continue classroom VAF floor replacement. That's vinyl asbestos flooring. We're going to be removing that. As I mentioned earlier, we'll replace it with the LVT tile. Coordinate and implement the upcoming energy performance contract, which I believe Mr. Fabiano spoke about a little bit earlier. And again, coordinate and implement the 5-year capital facilities plan, identifying necessary upgrades to our building infrastructure. These are some of the budget drivers for this proposed budget, and as Ms. Lang brought up before, she mentioned utilities, and these are by far the biggest drivers for this budget. As you can see, electric, natural gas, fuel oil, vehicle and equipment fuel, and custodial supplies. We've increased our utility budget by 20%, as Mr. Fabiano mentioned. And this is all driven by inflation.
Just to mention, because of the fact that we're not using the final presentation, and this is from your flash drive, that change on the first one should be $300,000, not $150,000. So just be aware
I'm sorry,
of that.
yes. Yeah.
I was not. I just don't want to. Yeah.
Well, these figures with the fuel oil, natural gas, vehicle and equipment, those are estimates, right?
Yeah, we've basically forecasted what we think our needs are going to be. We've looked at what we've used this year so far and what we plan to use for the rest of the year, and then we forecast it from there. I also look at the EIA report put out by the Department of Energy and see what their recommendations are.
Well, I think the fuel and the equipment, vehicle and equipment fuel, I think that's going to be a little bit more than that.
Yeah, originally that line item that we budgeted, the budget for gasoline was $2,500, and what we were finding was, what I found when I arrived was that they were running out of that code and eventually trying to, get the money elsewhere from the. Sure. Yeah. So instead of doing that each time, we're trying to budget a little bit more because obviously, we have plenty of gasoline that we have to use to fuel our equipment. And
Mr. Camerata, can you just talk briefly? I know we had talked about the electric use, right? So
Yes.
obviously in the previous initiatives and in the points of pride, it is wonderful that we're putting air conditioning in all the instructional spaces. But aside from the cost of installing them, right, there is the ongoing cost of electric, which is one of the main drivers why we're anticipating about a $300,000 increase.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Correct. And down the road, once the energy performance contract is in place and the solar portion of that project comes online, we'll begin to realize more savings, and perhaps we can, review this.
Yeah, theoretically, right, the more electric we use, the more we then should save when that solar is finally in place.
Correct. The bottom driver there, he says custodial supplies. Our budget for that last year was $360,000, and we increased that to $400,000, and that's again based on inflation. That's your paper products, toilet paper, paper towels, hand soap, anything petroleum based, garbage bags. Everything is just really all the prices have skyrocketed. So this is our historical perspective. Our budget last year was $6,071,389. We're projecting $6,686,219 for 2023-24. That year-to-year change, $614,000, or about 10%, a little over 10%.
And this is one of those departments that's, like Ms. Lang mentioned before about the inflationary pressure on different codes, and to mention it when you can see it, like this department is one of the ones that's most heavily affected by that.
Yes.
Right? Whether it's been the increased cost of electric or of gas and diesel and so forth and materials. This is, aside from our own initiative of installing air conditioners, so I don't want to make it seem like it's all inflation because it's not. Like there is a part of that 10% is a dramatic improvement to the climate of our classroom spaces. That comes with a cost. And so, good.
Yes. And that's it. Does anyone have any questions?
Sorry if you mentioned it. When are the solar panels? I know we got to go upstate and wait and stuff, but do you have a projected time? Because I don't remember what you said.
We recently spoke to our architect, and they're still in the design phase of the EPC. So it's going to be a little bit of time before the plans are finalized, and then they do need to go up to SED for approval and get the building permits, and then we can move.
So you're probably talking about at least a year out until you see any sort of shovel in the ground.
At least.
And the electric buses, when is that's a mandate, right? And when is that?
Do you remember the exact dates, Mr. Fabiano? I know that'll be part of Ms. Reeves' presentation next time, but
There's two key dates. There's 2027 is the year that we will have to begin to electrify our fleet, and by 2035 we will have had to have gotten off the road any buses that we currently own. So we're trying to make some decisions in this year's budget with what we're doing with our existing fleet. We've maintained a really good replacement cycle there, but because of inflationary constraints on the budget and the uncertainty about where the fleet is going, we're looking at that, and we'll be presenting more detail about that in the coming presentations.
yeah, listen, the issue, as I've mentioned before, and I think Mr. Moran and I have talked about it, is that right now those are the mandates for when we need to transition away from the fleet we currently have. That mandate could change, right? But the other piece is that even with the technology at the current level that it's at, it's very hard to really invest fully in this right now because there's a lot of unknowns. So like even with reaching out to other districts that have some electric buses, you could buy one electric bus and charge it without massive changes to your infrastructure. Once you start, we have approximately 70 buses, Mr. Fabiano, is that right?
I think, yeah.
I mean, like you're talking about charging 70 buses at once. Like that's that's a major change to the entire transportation depot. That we've been participating in grant webinars. The grant webinars so far, or the grants that are available, are only for buses. They're not for infrastructure yet. But we, like Mr. Fabiano said, we are still discussing whether or not we're going to move forward with any non-electrified buses, and are we going to move forward with one electric bus now? The ranges on these buses are still not great, right? From the reps we spoke to. Do you wait, to wait for the technology to catch up to where we really need it to be? So it's still a lot of questions out there.
So what's the chances of, has anybody checked into retrofitting any of the buses that we currently have?
To convert like a gas bus
Yes, a diesel over to a
electric. We can certainly look into it, but I haven't seen any analysis
Like
done.
Mr. Winch had stated, since we went to the convention, we've been on top. Well, Todd and I have been speaking about it because I've been talking to the assembly people, and like you said, the infrastructure. That's where the money's going to come. If we have to, we have 70 buses, to outfit our transportation depot to provide charging stations for all those buses, it's going to be a lot of money, and there's no grant money available as of yet for that. You might be able to get grant money for a couple of buses, but still, the infrastructure is where we're going to get killed at. And my biggest question when we were in the convention was, if you send a field trip with an electric bus to Manhattan, let's say it's in November, so the bus runs a little bit longer while the kids are in watching a play or whatnot. Who's to say that we're not going to run out of electric coming back? So now what do? We're going to have to follow that bus with a portable generator system to, you know what I mean? So the plan is not really thought out fully. In Albany, it's not thought out fully. To save the environment's a great thing, but they need to do some more research on how they're going to help us with the cost for the infrastructure. What are we going to do, like I said, with the case with the field trips and whatnot, if because you only get what did the guy say, 200 miles or 100 miles per charge?
Something that we had discussed. You might be able to get to the city on a charge and back, or might not, right? But that's not something you want to find out during the field trip.
Yeah, you don't want to find out coming home, yeah. So these are a lot of things we still have to check into.
And you know what? I know this is comparing apples to oranges. I know that. But this reminds me of going back 7, 8 years ago when all the state testing was going to be online. Every school district was going to do all their state testing online, and everybody was going to be ready, and everybody was going to have the right infrastructure they needed to run all these computers, and we're still not there. So I think we should just pause and see what's going on with this thing.
So
Agreed.
Are we obligated, I know you said 2027 is a date we have to start thinking about replacing?
2027 is the date by which we'll have to start purchasing electric buses, but they'll give us till 2035 to fully phase out, to go to zero emissions. So anything that we're buying now in 2023, that would probably, figuring a 12, 13-year useful life of a bus, for a bus purchase today, that's about when it would come off the road. So we have a couple of years. I know it goes by quickly. 2027 will be here quickly, but I think
2027, I believe, is when you won't be able to purchase new buses unless they're electric.
Unless they're
not, no
electric.
emissions.
That was part of my question,
Yeah.
and I was wondering if we were obligated to, let's say between now and 2027, if we have to replace a part of our fleet, do we need to consider doing the electric, or can we still buy our normal?
we
fill up the gas tank?
can still buy them, and there's enough time that we'll be able to get the full life out of them before we have to go to zero emissions. But every year then after that, you're cutting in. If you bought a bus in the last year, there's a likelihood that that bus would still be operational, but you couldn't drive it anymore. So we're thinking about how to move there. One of the things that they don't talk about, and and I haven't seen the numbers. I know a lot of numbers have been thrown around. An electric bus is a lot more money than a conventional bus, but that's only like really half the cost, because my understanding is that these batteries only last about 5 or 6 years, and the cost of the battery replacements are about 50% of the original
it's a
cost
lot
of
of
the
money.
bus.
Yeah, so
the numbers become staggering.
So-
And, you know, the numbers, and the only way to deal with a, you know, if you had, you know, if you decided, and that's eventually the way we were going, and by 2027, we had a full fleet of electric buses, and we needed to be able to work with that. You're talking about a capital project to build a facility that would charge them. There's no way to absorb something like that in the operational budget. You're
So-
talking millions and millions of dollars that we would have to plan for. And as we talk about the capital facilities plan, we're not. It's not even really on the drawing board right now. But we are looking at that through the building condition survey.
So it seems like it's more of an environmental benefit, which is fine, as opposed to a cost benefit for us anyway. And so then you have to charge these batteries. So that's, I mean, we're just talking about an inflation and price of electric and going
Yeah.
up. So that's really, do they have plans to have grids or something for us, or?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're starting to look into. We joked a little bit about tying the charging of the buses to the solar panels,
Right.
but then we might not be able to transport the children on a cloudy day.
Right.
So,
Yeah. It's a good point.
Additionally, if I could just chime in, you know, we're not the only ones that have these types of questions. Other districts as well, as plenty of my colleagues do. Oh, I'm sorry. Each year, the Nassau County Facilities Association sends advocates up to Albany for Advocacy Day, and where we meet with legislators and, you know, the powers that be. And this is one of the questions that are at the forefront, because, you know, they're mandating us to buy the buses, but there's really very little information on how we fund for the infrastructure that's going to be needed that you brought up.
What'd you say? You're so shocked?
So, you know, if we get up there, and we'll certainly get that FaceTime with the people in charge, and that's one of our primary questions, and hopefully we can get a little bit of information.
Mike,
there's
can
no
I
other
ask a question about the battery that you were saying? Like the battery is only good for like 5 to 7 years. Is that what you said?
that's my understanding. I think that was those are some of the concerns that I've heard at presentations, that you can't just look at the cost of the bus. You have to look at, you know, the maintenance is a lot higher if you consider that like a maintenance cost. So the total cost of a bus isn't just, now let's just say they were, you know, 200,000 plus, which is a lot more than a conventional bus. When you factor in the battery replacement, it really begins to skyrocket.
I'm just thinking with the battery replacement, like where are they putting all these batteries now? Like, right? Like that's more waste, right? It's not, may not be emissions, but okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Don't know if I'm going to tangent.
And what kind of bus company is going to offer an extended warranty with the cost of those batteries of thousands of dollars? You're not going to get an extended warranty.
Yeah.
Yeah, just as a point of reference, when Mr. Moran and I were at the conference in Syracuse, I think they were giving us around a $400,000 cost for the bus. So, which is close to double, right? A current bus that we're purchasing. So that's a doubling of the cost of just each bus, and you know, the whole. Listen, I don't think any of us are against doing things that are good for the environment. I think we all want to do that. Like Mr. Fabiano's presentation from the energy performance contract was all about doing things to save, you know, fossil fuels and so forth, to be more green. That's a good thing. It just also has to be actually something we can support financially. And so those are the questions that have not been answered, that we're really waiting for the powers that be to share with us about, like, how is this going to roll out? It's just interesting that, and I imagine it's part of the plan, is that you put the dates in and then you figure out how to, you know, meet your own deadlines. You know, and that never worked out really well with No Child Left Behind, if you remember that, right? Everyone was going to be able to read proficiently by 2012, I think was the date. And then 2012 came and they just kind of abandoned that whole model. Listen, I think that there's a place, obviously, for more green buses. I just don't think it's a great idea to say we're going to lock ourselves into this date, even though we have no idea how we're going to get to it, when we all know it's just going to be pushed out. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
One more thing. On a side note, everything looked beautiful. Great job to your staff. There's the positive. I came all negative, but where's the money? But no, it's really beautiful, and I think we're really grateful that we can do so much stuff in-house, so kudos to you and your team.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Tommy Williams and Logan Lapolte are back over there, so I just wanted to say once again thank you to them for helping to lead our wonderful crew.
Thank you, everybody.
And thank you for joining our team this year. It's wonderful to have you. Thank you.
To be here. Thank you so much.
This was his first budget presentation for us, so yes. Very nice job. Yeah. The March presentations, watch out. Mr. Fabiano, I think you have one more for us tonight.
Yes.
Right? But this is a good news presentation, right?
Yeah, I truly believe it is. So we started to speak about capital facilities planning and moving forward with that. It's another area of the operation that the pandemic kind of took its toll on. Projects were not getting through up at SED, and so the district was doing more maintenance and repair work, but it's time to kind of get back on track. And so it begins with developing a building condition survey, which we're in the process of doing. Ours is due in 2024. But we are doing some preliminary work on that now. So I just want to give you an update from our last presentation, which happened in October, which you might not remember. But one of the things I talked about there was we needed to wait for our financials to be done so that we knew how much money would be in the reserve. So we accepted those reports in November. And we funded the 2017 and 21 capital reserves, and so now we know how much money is in there, and we can then begin to build a capital budget program around that. The capital budget program is what's known as a 5-year capital facilities plan, and that's really a subset of our building condition survey. That's our prioritization of projects over the next 5 years. It's not cast in stone. As circumstances and situations change, we're able to adjust that. And so, again, I just wanted to give you an update of where we are. So right now, working with our previous building condition survey to build this 5-year plan, we listed all the projects. I did it 2 ways. Listed all the projects by school, and so you see that presently we have about $202 million worth of work, and as we do the building condition survey, that is likely to grow. I'm just
going to pause you for 1 second there, Mr. Fabiano. Yeah.
Sure.
Remember, the building condition survey is something that's required by New York State. Every district has one. The architect goes and kind of like looks at every nook and cranny in the district to see what are all the things that really could be improved. And they're always multi-million-dollar things. It's not like the expectation is that you're going to do $202 million worth of work. It really is looking at every single thing that could be replaced. And if you did, how much would it cost? So you're never going to ever do all of those projects. It's just not possible. So I don't want you to get nervous. This is normal. Yeah. No. But this is right, Mr. Fabiano. Am I making anything up?
You're absolutely correct. So we're always changing what the priorities are based on need and based on condition and circumstances. So, like I said, we started to add everything up in the building condition survey and add it up by building. And you can see here, I color-coded it so that you can see the yellow buildings are our elementary schools, the green are our middle schools, and the blue shaded ones are the high schools. You know, what I was, I don't know if impressed is the right word, but it was nice to see that the amount of work in each of the buildings, it's somewhat equitable, the amount of work that's needed. You can see at the high schools, obviously, our biggest buildings, they're comprising 15 and 14% of the total. Our middle schools drop down to the 12% range. And all our elementary schools require roughly the same amount of money within that building condition survey. So I think we've done a good job of spreading our resources throughout the schools and not let any one of them fall behind. Now, when what we did was we built the matrix so that when then we're able to total by types of projects. So this is by building. We see the same 202 million, but this is by types of projects. So the largest grouping of projects would be our HVAC system replacement. This was something that all districts would consider and are in most districts' 5-year facilities plans. With our air conditioning installation, it's probably not something that's going to be a priority. It would be the HVAC system replacement would be replacing our unit ventilators, which would also add air conditioning. But since we're putting the window units in, it's probably not something we need to address right now, which is a good thing. It allows us to address our attention in other areas. So before we get into what those are, I wanted to give you some idea of the monies that are available. So as I stated in October, we needed to wait for the closing of the book so that we knew what would be in our capital reserves. So this is an outline of the funding sources that we have to fund those projects. The first line is has already been voter approved. That was in this year's 2023 budget. It's that line item at the end of the budget called transfer to capital. We have $3 million there. In our capital reserves, we now have a total of $46 million set aside that's sitting in a bank account. We actually cannot spend that right now, and you'll probably hear me say this a half a dozen more times between now and May. It's a capital reserve is a 3-part process. The first part is to have the voters approve a reserve that you as a board can deposit money into. That the deposit is step 2, but before you can send it, you have to do step 3, and that's asking the voters to now spend the money that you deposited in there. So we will have a separate proposition on the May ballot to spend money from the 2017 and 2021 capital reserves in the amount of $46 million. We're reviewing monies that were left over from previous projects, and we're working with our auditor to identify that, but we feel we have about $8.6 million that's left over. The work that needs to be done there is having to go back to the original authorization and making sure that we stay within the scope of what we told the voters when they originally approved it. Debt service reserve. Again, this is a question one of the trustees had. We have some money in these other reserves. Can we funnel it into other projects? And the answer is yes. And we're working with our auditors right now and eventually with council to make sure that we take all the necessary steps to make sure that we can utilize money in something like a debt service reserve to fund the projects. And then in this year, we seek to maintain the same level of transfer to capital, another $3 million. Again, that'll be pending voter approval in May, which would bring the total up to $63 million. So here's the good part. Here's the fun part. What we get to do with this money. And by the way, everything up there will not affect the tax levy, will not affect the tax levy limit. This money has already been set aside from previous year's budgets and from previous year's authorizations. So obviously, no surprise, at the top of the list, we want to prioritize safety measures.
Suzanne does.
And we're going to be have already begun the process.
Hold on, Mr. Fabiano. Just go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We have a question.
I have a question. You mentioned that there's going to be a separate proposition on the ballot for the 46 million. Will the other two also have a separate prop? Debt service?
I'm going to go back. We are seeking the answer to that. I think in all likelihood, but it can be tied to the same proposition. Okay, you can. We have counsel here. We could probably do them as two separate propositions. The benefit of that, one could go down, the other could pass. If we tie them all together and it went down, then we would have nothing. But I think it's just simpler, and it's all part of the same story, so to speak. So we would probably advocate for just a single proposition. Otherwise, the ballot gets a little bit complicated.
Yeah, you don't want too many propositions. On the other hand, having what they call, excuse me, it's probably no longer politically correct, but they call it a Chinese menu proposition, where it's all one. That can be, one thing can drag down the rest, so it's hard to.
And sometimes that's why it's separated, so that if you have a project that you know is a little iffy and maybe controversial in the community, you don't tie it to everything else because it could drag everything else down. Yeah, I agree.
And I just want to because obviously we're in the weeds here a little bit on things, just for everybody listening at home. The funds that are here are not new funds. They're funds that already exist.
Correct.
But the way that the state works it is that aside from having the funds, you then also have to ask basically permission on how to use the funds. So as much as these would be additional propositions in May, they're not propositions to raise more money. It's propositions really to get authorization on how to use it. So like, let's say for instance that the board agrees to doing the things that are on this priority list, they would be referenced in that proposition, and then the money would be used for that. But it doesn't actually, when we talk about $63 million, it's not additional money that's being raised. It's money that's either in the budget or money that's in the reserves. So it's not any additional cost. Just want to make sure that was clear.
Thank you for that clarification.
That people know that $46 million, we can't just subtract, like it has to be used for specific things that you can't, because I can hear people saying, well, let's just minus 46 million off our $250 million budget to bring the tax levy down.
No.
That's not, I think it's so important to get it out there that that's not the way this works. You cannot use that money for other things than.
You have to use it for capital purposes. You can't use it for general fund. Yeah. That's right.
Thank you. So we're looking to prioritize our projects, and as I started to say, safety is at the forefront of everything that we do. And right now we have antiquated and failing public address systems. Our fire alarm systems also need to be upgraded and replaced. One of the benefits of doing these two projects is that we spend approximately $60,000 a year to maintain and keep the public address systems in our buildings going, as well as about $60,000 a year for our fire alarm system. So these new systems would come with a warranty, and we can basically begin to whittle away some of the contract money for just to maintain these systems.
Types of initiatives aidable?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna get to that. Yeah, that's this is.
I take that back.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil the ending.
I'm sorry.
So the next group of projects, which again we're moving forward with, we really can't do anything in the building if the roofs are leaking and there's cracks in the walls. So the umbrella term for this is sealing the building envelope. We would replace or recondition all existing roofs. and we would do all our interior and exterior masonry repairs. Going back to the projects, the listings, we estimate that to be about $26 million, which means that we have about $20 million that hasn't already been earmarked for that, and so we're looking at a number of other initiatives, and those are listed down below. And we will continue to talk about that with the board, with our building leadership, and with other stakeholders. But some of the projects that are certainly at the top. We had done the division locker room several years ago, and there was kind of a commitment to doing the same at MacArthur. So we'd like to honor that. So MacArthur and Wisdom locker rooms we're certainly taking a good look at. We want to upgrade our playground structures. One of the big components of that is the surfacing. We also have the continuing the district asbestos abatement projects, and the electric system upgrades are also part of the public address and fire alarm systems. It's Gardner's Avenue and Summit Lane. We brought the electric to the building, so we have the capacity, but we never completed that. So we need additional panels in there in order to air condition all the classrooms. Right now, they are behind all the other buildings only because we don't have the electric capacity, and we want to make that right. So as part of the public address and fire alarm systems for all the buildings, we're also including the Gardner's Avenue and Summit Lane electric system upgrades.
Hi. Just a quick... It's me again. The track and field at Wisdom, I don't know if you said it or not. Did we get any grant? Did we get a grant or something from Legislative Ferretti or something like that?
Yes, we did. We reached back out to his office about 2 months ago now.
Yes.
Just to confirm that money is still there, and the
Yes.
money is still there. It's about $200,000 that we got from them, and this is a deeper conversation that we need to have. Is like, what do we want to do with that, right? Because part of the conversation has been that Salk, being that it's on the same campus as MacArthur, has access to MacArthur's fields, their track and so forth. Wisdom does not, since it's very far apart from division. And what do we want to do there on the field? Do we want to put that money towards, because I think initially it was really to redo a baseball field. Like, do we want to use it for something else that's more a larger project where there's a track, some form of a track? Maybe it's not, a high school level track, but something that the track team could use or people in the community can use. And then what does that look like? And that's why you'll see the range on there on that slide is $200,000 to $2.9 million, is because that depends upon what we decide to do. Like $200,000 is what we currently have, and that's gonna let's do some nice upgrades, but it's not gonna. If you're gonna, let's say, go to a full on track and turf field in the middle, you're talking about that $3 million number. So that's the high end. I'm not saying it's what we're doing. It's just that these are the ranges of possibilities. And just to kind of mention again about this list, right? So this is what we're talking about potentially comprising that $63 million. The first ones the red ones on the top really need to be done because they're safety related, right? The PA systems in the buildings must be reliable. That's a safety issue that needs to be done immediately. Fire alarm systems also, same thing, have to be done immediately. So those things are at the top. Sealing the building envelope is important in regards to, like Mr. Fabiano mentioned, no matter what work you do in the building, if the building leaks, it's going to ruin all the work you did. So making sure we're investing into the roofs and all the buildings is a lot of money, but you're then good for 10 to 20 years on that project, right? Same thing with the exterior and interior masonry repairs, just to give you an idea. Sometimes you might have seen, like in the gymnasium over here, there's like a big crack in the wall. That's the kind of masonry work we're talking about having to fix, that they're big jobs. Some of that has been part of previous capital reserve referendums that have gone on the votes that because of COVID never got completed. All right, so they have to go back on the drawing board to get done. The ones in the green, there's a lot of flexibility in regards to what we decide to do. Now, like Mr. Fabiano mentioned, we did the division in Salk locker rooms. I want to say it was right before COVID. I think it kind of went into COVID a little bit. But the plan was then to do MacArthur and Wisdom. It just then COVID hit, so it got put on the back burner. The boys and girls locker rooms for those schools would then need to be done. That should be a priority because the commitment was made and it would make sense to do them. But we also, we don't want to just put all the focus, let's say, on the high schools or middle schools, like our elementary schools. I think Mr. Fabiano, Mr. Camerata, and Mr. Lapote and I actually had walked around to some of the playgrounds and definitely could use some upgrades in those playgrounds, so we would like to put that in the mix here. We've talked ad nauseum here about the Salk drop-off and the traffic mess that's there. We have been working with I know it's Town of Hempstead and New York State with getting that, getting a transfer of that parcel of land right by Salk to do something to make the traffic flow there better so that, once again, the safety of our students is preserved. But that's a huge project that, could be part of that. And we've asked for, kind of some proposals from Grillo about what might work. As you know, that area, there's not a lot that really has come up about how do you fix that situation. But we're working on it. It does look like we'll get that land, just so that you know. The previous approved projects, there's the Family Consumer Science Room, MacArthur, that was supposed to already be done. So that's back on the they're like those yellow ovens from 1975, that it's time for them to go. The asbestos abatement project we continue to do, as you know, trying to get rid of as much asbestos as possible is good for everybody. And then, like Mr. Fabiano mentioned, the Gardeners and Summit Lane electrical upgrades need to be done as well. So, sorry, Mr. Fabiano. Go ahead, keep going.
Yeah. So this will be done. It begins with submission of plans up to the state. It's going to be done in phases. We really didn't want to wait for everything to be decided upon and then begin doing that. So we've already, we're about to send up to the state approval for the PA systems, the fire alarm systems, and the electric system upgrades down below. The next phase would be sealing the building envelope, and then ultimately we would start to address the all other project category. I just wanted to talk, there was a question earlier about building aid, but building aid is a great thing, and we'll talk about, we have a tremendous building aid ratio here, but it does string out the process to get SED approval for this. So you have to go through a design phase, we have a district architect, he has to submit plans up to the state, and right now it's they've actually gotten a little bit better, but it's about 5 months for state approval. So even though we're going to be getting things up there now, we may not see approval till the summertime, which is unfortunate in that sometimes that's the only window of opportunity you have to do some of these projects. But you have to deal with it. The payoff at the end of the day is that by going through those hoops and getting that SED approval, we're eligible for 76% or 76 cents on the dollar for every dollar that we invest in our building. So it's certainly something we want to take advantage of, and we can talk a little bit more about that, its effect on the budget and its effect on the tax levy limit. But I've already spoken a lot tonight, so unless there's a particular question on that, we'll save that for another time. Again, I bolded up there, capital reserve expenditure referendum on the May 16th ballot. Any questions about building aid or the approval process? Okay. Other. So, we certainly, one of the things that I've learned here is we're gonna have to reiterate that it can be used for no other purposes, and that it will not affect the tax levy that we place. But this work, much of this work has to be done. And if we did not have leftover monies in these budgets, if we did not have a transfer to capital line, if we did not set this money aside, the only way to fund projects of this magnitude is by issuing a serial bond. And fortunately, we don't have to. So I just thought it would be, interesting to work through the numbers. If we didn't have this money available that we're going to ask the voters to approve, and we had to go out and ask them to approve a bond, it wouldn't cost the taxpayer $63 million. With principal and interest over 15 years, it would cost $85 million. So that's $12 million that would have just gone to banks instead of into our buildings. So I think that's an important point, and I want to try to reiterate that through the process, that it's a good thing that we were able to save these monies, set them aside, and earmark them for necessary capital improvements.
And just on that, I just wanted to thank the board, right? Because these reserves that exist, Mr. Fabiano mentioned back in 2017, like this is really through really good budgeting practices that previous administration and the board has really made sure is a priority, so that we do not have to go out to the community to ask for additional monies through bonds like many, many other districts have to. This is a way for the board to make sure that money is there so that the buildings are taken care of, that the infrastructure we provide to our kids is the best that it can be at the lowest possible cost to the taxpayer. And that's only done through really a decade of planning by the Board of Education and previous administrations. So I just wanted to point that out, that, not that you should pat yourselves on the back, but that this is only possible by really thoughtful planning for many, many years. So thank you.
And just to apply that 76% building aid ratio, the $63 million worth of projects could generate as much as $46 million in building aid. Now, we would not get that back all in 1 year. That's amortized as if you had issued debt. And so what they do is they break that $48 million up over 15 years. But that comes to about $3.2 million a year that this investment in our building will pay as a fiscal dividend, as well as the improvement to our structures. I believe that is it. Yep. Any other questions with regard to the capital?
I don't have any questions. I just want to thank Craig and Mike for a wonderful presentation, and also to Mike for sitting with me for about 2 hours this week to explain to me how budgeting works and how proposals work and propositions. So thank you again for that.
You're more than welcome.
We have no public be heard, right? She left? Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Carrie Sabello is not here, correct? No? Going once, going twice? Okay. There are no follow-up to board questions. Any comments and reports from the Board of Ed? No? Okay. So we will now move to the student liaison portion of the evening, and we will be starting with Jack Maurer from MacArthur.
Good evening. Oh. Yep. I would just like to wish everyone a happy and healthy new year on behalf of MacArthur High School. And we hope that 2023 will be our finest year yet. Since our last meeting, from December 5th to December 8th, we conducted an extremely successful Challenge Day presentation for our 10th grade students. The program is a social and emotional learning workshop that has been around for the past 3 decades. It is designed to help break down barriers and build positive connections between students and staff. Over 70 staff members participated, and the feedback received was all positive and complimentary of this powerful and highly effective presentation. On December 15th, Mr. Romano accompanied his Winter Wind Ensemble to the Broadway Mall in Hicksville, where they performed beautiful holiday music for all shoppers to enjoy. Also on the 15th, we conducted a very well attended and informative elective fair for all freshmen, sophomore, and junior students during all 4 lunch periods in the auditorium lobby. Special thanks to all the teachers who volunteered their time to advertise all of the amazing elective courses MacArthur will be offering for the upcoming school year. On December 19th, we had the privilege of having dynamic keynote speaker Detective Lieutenant Landman from the Nassau County Police Department. He spoke to our entire student population about the dangers of fentanyl. It was an intense and powerful presentation, which certainly rose a much-needed awareness to the dangers of fentanyl. Special thanks to Mr. Landman for sharing his informative insight. On December 20th, we hosted our first winter concert of the season, where our string orchestra, under the direction of Mrs. Musial, as well as our concert choir, under the direction of Mrs. Levenberg, performed beautiful holiday music for all who attended. If you were fortunate enough to attend, I'm sure you would agree, it was a spectacular show which certainly put us all in the holiday spirit. And just last week, for the purpose of preparing students for the upcoming midterm examinations, a series of extra help classes were arranged in several science, math, English, and social studies classes. Students are strongly encouraged to attend. The specific schedule of these extra help classes is posted on the MacArthur homepage. And speaking of midterm exams, we will be administering our block time midterm examinations and select Regents exams during the week of January 24th to the 27th. In-class finals for the fall semester courses will take place during the regular school day, during January 17th to January 19th. A schedule outlining all of the specifics regarding these examinations and busing schedules were mailed home last month, and it is also posted on our homepage as well. And a scary thought, believe it or not, but the second quarter ends on Friday, January 27th. Time is flying. On January 7th, Dr. Friedman and Mr. Zausen accompanied all members of our Science Olympiad team to an invitational competition at Kellenberg High School. Over 50 teams from the tri-state area competed, and we had our best finish ever. In this tournament, we medaled in 7 separate events. Way to go, team. On January 28th, our team will be competing in the Long Island Regional Competition, which will be held at Syosset High School. Please join me in wishing our Science Olympiad team the best of luck in this competition. On January 19th, we'll be conducting our second winter concert of the season with our symphonic band under the direction of Mr. Romano. They will be performing some outstanding pieces of classical music, so please put this in your calendars. It is a must-see. On January 31st, we'll be conducting our 9th grade peer bagel breakfast, where each freshman student will be taking a survey to help Mr. Sheehan assess how successful their transition from Salk to MacArthur has been. Their opinions will be solicited based upon what they found helpful, as well as any suggestions that they may have for the future incoming classes to make their transitions even smoother. And I would now like to congratulate several generals who have recently achieved several impressive accomplishments and accolades. First, congratulations to Melody Huang for being accepted into the prestigious Columbia University Science Program as a 10th grader. And to science research student Alex Zhu, Natalia Chinichne, Anna Compton, and Mia Fertura, and Ramon Martinez for participating in the Vision Long Island Smart Growth Summit, where they sat with government officials to discuss development and sustainability across Long Island. In addition, they sat in on workshops related to downtown planning, wastewater treatment, infrastructure development, and business planning. And I would also like to recognize and congratulate sophomore students Cami Sankol and Melody Huang for being the Hugh O'Brien representatives for MacArthur High School. HOBie is an organization that strives to inspire a life dedicated to leadership, community, service, innovation, and strong decision-making skills. The seminar that they will attend is in Albany this coming June. Also, congratulations to senior student athletes Alexo Rotigliata and Rocco Hogan for being the recipients of the New York State Association for Health and Physical Education award winners, and also to Alexa Petito, Thomas Bennett, and Sarah Finger for being selected to represent MacArthur High School at the 2023 National Leadership Forum in Baltimore, Maryland. This occurs from January 29th to February 2nd, and their mission is to reduce underage drinking and substance abuse within the Levittown and Island Trees communities. And in sports, all of our winter teams are continuing to compete the general way and are lobbying for top playoff seeds. Please join me in wishing them all, and wishing all of our winter sports teams the best of luck as their seasons will soon be concluding. And this concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Jack. And now we have Christopher Evans from Division Avenue.
So to start things off with student life, before the holidays, the staff and students competed in a holiday/winter door decorating contest to bring cheer and excitement to our hallways. This has become an annual tradition that everyone looks forward to, organized by Miss Wheeler and the Positive Club. Throughout the month of December, Business Honor Society students participated in a toy drive to benefit local children in need, filling several large boxes with gifts. On December 21st, they received a visit from a representative of the John Thiessen Foundation and proudly presented their donations. On December 19th, members of the Symphonic Band, Concert Choir, Chamber Choir, and String Orchestra presented their talents in the annual winter concert, delighting the large crowd in attendance. During the week leading up to the winter break, many of the same students performed holiday songs in the lobby during passing time, raising everyone's spirits and putting everyone in the festive mood. Thank you to Mr. Martufi, Mr. Rossi, and Ms. Sellers for their hard work preparing the students. Mr. Angles' sports marketing and Miss Logidis' college business classes went on a behind-the-scenes tour of Citi Field. They toured the field, luxury suites, the Mets Museum, and many other areas of the stadium, learning about the complex operations at work in a world-class professional sports facility. Moving on to academics, the Division Avenue Guidance Team held their annual elective fair on December 8th. Teachers and students collaborated to showcase the numerous elective offerings at Division that cover a wide range of subjects. Following the fair, throughout the next month, the Division Avenue Guidance Team will be visiting social studies classes to help students select electives and build their schedule for next year. The Division Avenue Science Olympiad Team competed at the Valley of Valley Forge Invitational on December 17th in Berwyn, Pennsylvania, and the students competed against 41 teams from 28 schools across 5 different states. Medals were earned by Isma Akbar and Muskan Kumar for 3rd place in Scrambler, Nishkir and Taranpreet Rathro, 3rd place in Rocks and Minerals, Yasim Bayumi and Maya Reitz, 3rd place in It's About Time, and Jessica Bandal and Akash Veeravalli for 2nd place in Flight. The team earned 14th place overall. In addition, the Science Olympiad team also competed in the Long Island Science Olympiad Tournament this past Saturday on January 7th. Competing against teams all across the island, the students won multiple medals, including 1st in Rocks and Minerals, 2nd in Scrambler, 6th in Flight, 7th in Detector Building, and 9th in both Forensics and Forestry. For athletics, the Division Avenue High School varsity cheerleaders took home a 1st place win at the Section 8 competition hosted at Division Avenue High School on December 10th. The following day, they placed 6th out of the 21 New York State teams in the Empire Regional Championship for their traditional routine and 3rd place in the game day category, earning them a bid to compete this February in the UCA National Championship in Orlando, Florida. Jack Pendergrass was awarded the Roy Kesenich Award at the Nassau County Football Dinner. This award is given to a student who excels in 3 sports and in the classroom. Jack is the first Division Avenue High School student athlete to ever receive this award. On December 28th, senior Olivia Agunzo reached a very rare milestone in her high school basketball career. Olivia scored her 1,000th career point in a basketball game versus North Shore High School and continues to close in on the school record as the season progresses. Congratulations to Olivia. The Division Avenue High School kickline team had a very successful weekend of the Long Island Dance Team Association competition held at Sachem North High School on January 7th. The team, led by Coach Adrienne Kleinertz and Captains Alyssa Bella and Kirsten Katea, captured a 3rd place win for their kick routine and a 1st place victory for their team routine. The team routine was a combination of kick, pom, jazz, and hip-hop, and the girls worked hard for months preparing the routine for the competition. And lastly, just for upcoming events, students in all courses are preparing for their final or midterm examinations. Finals for semester courses will be held January 17th through the 20th, and block exams for full year courses will be held January 24th through January 27th.
Thank you again. We will now move to our, oh, that's where Public Be Heard was. My bad. I kind of skipped ahead before. No, it's okay. But I can say it again. She's not here? Okay, we're good. Thank you.
Oh, no. I'm sorry.
Do you want to go?
Sure. Before you get to the consent agenda, I just have 3 changes. I'm going to pull number 6 from the agenda, which is the 23-24 school calendar. We'll look to approve it at the next business meeting, which is in February. We're going to pull one name from one of the schedules.
I'm ready.
So it's Schedule 1006.
Yep.
Number 4.
Okay. Hold.
Yep. And then I have a question here actually for Bob. I want to, on number 4, the budget transfer. Oh, can I amend that budget transfer to take out one of the transfers in there? And then approve this as amended?
You can, yes. The
So,
board- yeah.
So
the
like
board can do
the
that.
one where it says BOCES admin costs $200,000 and then transportation contractual expenses $400,000. We're going to pull that out. We're going to just cross that off. You see what I got? Yeah, I'm gonna. So basically, what we're gonna do is we're gonna ask to approve the consent agenda for the items, like 1 to. It's 1 to 5 and then 7 to 14, as amended. Okay. Does that
Okay.
work for you, Bob?
It works.
Because then that's the amended part.
Right.
We're good. So you just still.
Do I have a motion to accept items 1 through 5 and 7 through 14 on the consent agenda as amended? James, do I have a second? Christina, is there any discussion? Okay, 6-0. We'll now move on to action items. New business is gifts to schools. 25 new Scholastic books as listed on the attached to be donated to Wisdom Lane Middle School Library from the Scholastic Book Fair, 925 Grand Boulevard, Deer Park, New York. May I have a motion to accept these gifts with thanks? Peggy, do I have a second? Marianne, any discussion? I would just say. Thanks. Yeah, go for it. All in favor? We're 6-0. Thanks again. Our upcoming dates. Oh, no, ad hoc. We have nothing for ad hoc, right?
Nope.
Okay. Upcoming dates. We have a budget planning session. Number 1 is on January 25th. Besides budget planning, we will also have representatives from Altaris Security Consulting Group who will be presenting at the meeting on school district security. We encourage members in our school community to come out and attend this informative meeting regarding school district security, as it has been one of the priorities of the school board. Our next meeting after that is February 8th, which will be a regular meeting, and also budget planning session number 2. And may I please have a motion to adjourn the regular meeting? Dylan, and a second. Marianne, all in favor? 6-0. Have a great evening. Meeting adjourned.